138 pounds in the black corner. From St. Louis, Missouri.
Andre the Giant.
Gonna get his leg set on the loser.
One, the greatest WWE champion of all time, and in many ways, the man who made the title what it is today, Bruno Sammartino.
His opponent weighing 236 pounds in the white corner. From Van Nuys, California.
Welcome into a live edition of the Retro Wrestling Rewind on a Monday. Yeah, that's right, folks. It's a holiday, so I thought we'd jump on the stream. And of course, Mike Styer, he is off today because he's molding our minds of the future, our youngsters of the future. So he's got the day off, and I thought we'd start off and have a great live show on this Monday. Start talking Starrcade 1991, and we were going to have the great Tyler Peters on, but Tennessee, I think they still have dial-up modems. I mean, I'm not really sure. Kind of some behind the scenes, look. We were talking in the pre-show, and Mike had said, Tyler, you should update your stream, and why he said he froze. It's fun, See, that's why I like the show, because there are a lot of current shows who they're serious. They talk about the current product, but we're talking about stuff from the past. It's happened in the past, and we can't change it. We can laugh about it and how crappy it was. And speaking of that, our show that we're talking about today is Starrcade 1991. It was a lethal lottery. It took place Norfolk, Virginia, on December 29th of 1991. It was a tournament, a tag team tournament. It was definitely a different. What were your thoughts? Before we get into it and start talking about Starrcade 90, what was your thoughts overall?
I thought it was a good premise. I really did enjoy you earn your way into this thing at the end. I can't say that some of the tag matches were great by any means. But at the same time, the premise of earning it or losing it because of your teammate, I thought that was pretty good too. I could imagine, I didn't watch it back in 91, but I can imagine watching this, and it's suspenseful. It's kind of got a Royal Rumble feel to it. And kind of a winner take all thing right here. At the same time, battle royals are what they are. They're not great by any means. So it was enjoyable for a couple hours there.
Yeah, I mean, had some good wrestlers, had some interesting matchups. I mean, the first matchup of the card was at this time, Marcus Alexander Bagwell he was a rookie, and he was from Marietta, Georgia. He tagged up with half of the Freebirds, Jimmy Garvin. They took on Michael Hayes and Tracy Smothers. But before we get to that, I just wanted to make a comment. They, of course, went to the commissioner of Starrcade, former United States heavyweight champion, Magnum TA, the very, very beautiful Missy Hyatt, and Eric Bischoff. It was interesting. Eric Bischoff was like, here's former United States heavyweight champion of the world. I'm like, well, I don't know what a United States heavyweight champion of the world is, but okay. I mean, the whole premise of the spin, the thing that you kind of get lottery balls, if you ever play bingo. I mean, did you like that concept? I mean, or did you just, I mean, I thought overall, I mean, I know you have a guy that may be showing up on the show that was one of my favorite wrestlers, may show up on the show later on. But I thought overall it was a good show. I mean, what were your thoughts on this first match? Tracy Smothers, God rest his soul, he is, of course, no longer with us. I think he had some cancer. He got over it, or he was beating the cancer battle, and then it came back and ended up passing away a while back. But Tracy Smothers, did you like him as a heel or a babyface? I mean, or were we even a fan of Tracy Smothers?
Not a huge fan. Again, part of it is because of where I am in Ohio, that it's more of a WWF area, and that's mostly what I saw. So, a lot of what I've seen of Tracy Smothers is the stuff that we're watching now. And in this match, he actually carried the match for the most part of the team between him and Michael Hayes. Because Hayes didn't wrestle all that much, but you knew that him and Jimmy Garvin were going to get in there, and it was fun. And that's kind of what I liked about this whole thing is you've got a tag team, the Freebirds, who now are split up, and they now have to take on each other, and you want to see what it's going to be like. Will they turn on each other at the end? And you saw the handshake and the hug afterwards. Bagwell didn't do a bad job. He got the pin with the fisherman suplex. But like I said, there's a lot of Smothers carrying this match, and he was in there quite a bit. So it was a good opener. It was mostly fun to see, the interaction between Garvin and Michael Hayes.
Yeah, I mean, I thought them as a tag team, they were, I mean, when they were in the Freebirds, I mean, I was a big Terry Gordy fan. He was probably the best Freebird. I mean, Buddy Roberts, he was okay. Jimmy Garvin, I mean, he had a great run as, gorgeous Jimmy Garvin. He had some great feuds. He had Ric Flair's feud. I mean, he had Lovely Precious on his side. I mean, I was not a fan of this incarnation of Jimmy Garvin, but I mean, I thought it was a good match, like you said, to open up the card. I mean, and it was interesting. Marcus Alexander Bagwell, who was, I think, may have been a rookie this year, or it may have been the year before. It's interesting to see how his career kind of went in a different direction. I mean, he got super big, literally and figuratively. I mean, I'm not sure if you remember the Judy Bagwell on a pole match. It was, well, thank God it wasn't on a pole, because that could have been interesting. I think he was great young, as a young wrestler. I mean, I think when he went down the road and got more seasoned, I think he got better.
Yeah, I think so too. He didn't really have any great runs at things. He was a good, higher mid-card wrestler. I did like his, the finisher, the blockbuster, right? Coming off the top rope and kind of giving a neck breaker over top. But I feel like almost his wrestling dwindled at the end because he got more like a power style than anything else. And he was, I don't know. I thought he was really annoying as Buff. And, the stories of him, one of the stories I remember hearing is that he got calf implants because he was so big everywhere else. And people were like, did you skip leg day because you don't have any calves?
Yeah, he definitely, and I heard this on another podcast, on Tony Schiavone's podcast. I think he may do some kind of male online escort thing now.
He's just a gigolo, and everywhere
it's
he
like
goes.
I don't know what it's called. It's like Cowboys for Men. It was some weird website that you can go and get relations online, but that's beside the point. So that's kind of like he went from that to that. But I mean, I guess you got to pay the bills. I mean, your Marcus Bagwell. I mean, he's the stuff. I mean, I'm not sure if you recently. I think it was recent. It may have been a year or so ago. It actually may have probably been last year. He posted a video of him, I think on Facebook, Instagram, one of those, and he looked like he had something wrong with him. I'm not sure. Have you seen that video of
No.
him? I mean, you just go look it up. I mean, he looked like he had some kind of, I don't know, he was either drunk or he had some kind of like episode, like some brain episode. It was kind of sad. I mean, to look at where he's went from the Rookie of the Year in WCW to, to this. But I mean, he had a good run. I mean, I think he tagged up with Firebreaker Chip. He had a couple tag team partners, but the Firebreaker Chip. The next match of the card, I really liked. Had three great wrestlers in Van Hammer. It was Steve Austin, of course. He was not Stone Cold, but he was stunning. Ravishing Rick Rude with Paul E. Dangerously taking on Van Hammer and Big Josh. I just wanted to say I hate Van Hammer. I just don't like his wrestling style. And there are rumors and stories going around that I've heard from people that are in the know, or more in the know than me, that when they brought in Van Hammer, he thought he was like going to save WCW with his, rock personality. I mean, but I like this tag team matchup of Steve Austin and Rick Rude. I mean, Steve Austin, he was even good then. I mean, he was amazing.
See, this match wasn't my favorite. I was looking forward to it because I wanted to see how these four guys interacted together, and I've never seen Big Josh wrestle. And I always know his name through like people making figures of him, and I think he's one of the like chase figures for the Galoob series. Is a big Josh that I think was only a UK exclusive, but never really got to watch him wrestle. So I thought it was good. But like you said, and then they introduced Van Hammer into it, and I was like. See, I do remember him from WCW when I would watch that, and I was just like, I was never impressed. I wasn't sure, is this supposed to be a rock and roll Triple H look? What are you trying to do here? But you could see the elements of Steve Austin that would make him, more famous later. It was good to see Rude still moving around pretty good before he had all his back injuries and everything else. But I was kind of a meh match because you knew that Steve Austin and Rick Rude were going to win this. There's no way they were going to put Van Hammer and Big Josh in the finale.
I mean, you never know. I mean, I don't know who was booking at the time, but yeah, I mean, I was a big Steve Austin fan. I mean, I loved him in the Hollywood Blondes when he was teaming up with Flying Brian Pillman. I thought that was a great tag team. But yeah, I mean, and looking at Paul Heyman, Paul E. Dangerously back in 1991, and to see where he is now, I mean, literally and figuratively, I mean, he is much heavier now, which, I mean, people do that when they get older, but he has come such a long way from when he started in the National Wrestling Alliance, when he was the manager of the original Midnight Express and a couple other people, to this time in 1991 to 2021. I mean, he has been around in wrestling for a while.
Yeah, and people don't realize that how long he's been in there. And I think I read up on him, or it was on a podcast where he's like Cornette. That as a kid, he stuck around wrestling or got around it so quick. I think it was Heyman that started off as a photographer, or just kind of a ring rat and helped out and then worked. Not that ring rat, but anyways. Different term.
That's for another day, another podcast.
I was thinking more of a gym rat like that. But anyways, so he stuck around and he's been around for a long time. And you see the rise of the different promotions and he's always there. He's always doing his thing. So I think he's great on the mic. I think he's a great personality. And I hope he gets his due.
Yeah, I mean, I have noticed that every promotion that he touches or is involved in, like he started ECW, that was popular back in the day. He's in the WWE. He was in NWA. He was in WCW. I mean, most, if not all, the promotions that he was a part of thrived and did well. I mean, and I think he's definitely got a great eye for talent. I mean, it's interesting to hear some of the stories of like the backstage stuff, which you would never have heard back in. Oh, I mean, when they went on back in this time, but you never heard about it because there wasn't the internet, there wasn't Instagram, Twitter, and there wasn't podcasts like this. I mean, he is such a good person, a good talent scout. I mean, he has an eye for great talent, and I am glad that he's still around. I mean, he could be annoying, but most of the wrestlers that he's with now, they do all the talking. I mean, I think if he was with a wrestler that couldn't do the talking, that would help that wrestler out because he is great on the microphone. I mean, when he was with CM Punk, I mean, he was amazing. I mean, and still amazing. And I hope that the WWE keeps him around for a very long time.
Yeah. And I agree. I feel like anybody he works with gets that instant rub. I mean, look what he did to Roman Reigns. Look what he did with Brock Lesnar. And Roman Reigns can speak, but just having Heyman there kind of bumps his game up just a little bit.
Yeah, and have you noticed? I mean, I try to watch the current product and kind of relate it to the old stuff we would talk about. But ever since Roman Reigns came back from his not wrestling because of COVID and the quarantine, him not feeling comfortable to be in the ring and to do it, he has upped his game. I mean, I was never a fan of Roman Reigns because I think they kind of shoved him down your throat. But now I just think he is so much better than he has been in the past.
Well, and again, I think that's the Heyman rub is he's got a little bit more of an edge to him, a little more of a personality. He was kind of just like pretty shallow before, there wasn't a lot of depth to it. And I really think that he's doing a good job now.
Yeah. And I got two questions that we started to pose each and every week. I want you to think about it and we'll talk, we'll go around and circle back around and talk about it at the end of the show. Who was your star of the show? Which these are questions that you said, hey, let's talk about it. And I said, that's amazing. Who is the star of the show? We'll talk about that. And which match would you watch again? So, I mean, it's kind of just two questions that you can think in the back. I know you want to watch the Van Hammer, Big Josh, Rick Rude match. Speaking of Big Josh, you knew he was one of the original Doinks, right?
I don't think I knew that.
Yep, he was back in the old WWF. I mean, he's been around. I mean, he's this gimmick with him looking like a woodsman, from like the Northwest. That was kind of dumb, but
I think a lot of people are nostalgic for that.
Yeah, like
they, when they talk about Big Josh, again, I didn't know him much back then, but it seems like the people I talk to now are like, yeah, but this guy was fun. They liked him.
Yeah.
And I like the name Big Josh. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really mess up with what he had like on a plaid shirt and a jean or cut off jeans.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get that anywhere. The next match we had on the card was another man who has been around forever, Dustin Rhodes, and an incarnation of Ricky Morton, which I hated, Richard Morton, taking on Larry Zbyszko and El Gigante with Medusa. I mean, what were your thoughts on this match? I mean, it was having El Gigante wrestle anybody besides like an oak tree outside was a disadvantage.
No lie. This is the match that I would go back and watch again. Why? Because it was so much fun watching Larry Zbyszko the whole time. And it wasn't a long match. I did start off annoyed with the Richard Morton, but then you get Terrence Taylor later on too, that when they can't think of anything else to do with them, they'll just extend their name. And that's a fresh start. Yeah. And I didn't feel like, Ricky Morton's a tag team guy. So see him doing the singles stuff. I know he had the run in NWA, I believe. But at the same time, this guy's a tag team guy because he's not big. He's not particularly fast, and his skill set is for the tag team. So it was good to see Dustin Rhodes as a younger guy, El Gigante or whatever you want to pronounce it. He wasn't awful. He had his moments, but the interaction between him and Larry Zbyszko it was fun. I was entertained because obviously Zbyszko carried the whole thing, did what he was supposed to, and then he kind of paid for it at the end. But it was fun.
Yeah, I am. Like you said, I could watch Larry Zbyszko back then, going on for weeks. I mean, the guy is talented, great on the mic. And I met him one time, I forgot where it was. It was at a convention that I was working, ring announcing at. That man could talk your ear off. And he's a super nice guy. I mean, he's one of those guys that I'm glad had a great run. And yeah, this match had Dustin Rhodes. I mean, I'm sorry. He was Gold Dust for so many years. He was Dustin Rhodes, then Gold Dust. And, now he's back to Dustin Rhodes, AEW. I mean, we kind of talked about this before with The Undertaker. I mean, he is finally retired, hopefully. But he had such a long run. What makes a wrestler, in your opinion, last longer than others? I mean, is it their gimmick? Is it their in-ring ability, or is it just darn luck?
Longevity, number one, is because of a lack of injury. And, he was never a big guy. So he was tall, but steroids, I don't think were ever really a factor for him. No. He always worked on, there are times when he let himself go, but then he came back and worked hard. And, with that Rhodes family, I don't know, what do you do without wrestling? So if that's your love, that's your passion, you keep going with it. And his ability to go back and forth with characters, and Goldust was so weird of a character that he really could have gone any direction with it.
Yeah, I mean, Goldust was just, very creepy and weird, but also amazing. I mean, I loved his music. I mean, and the way that they, did like the introduction of him coming to the ringside. I mean, they put in a lot of effort in that gimmick. I mean, he was definitely, I think he was a great wrestler, a great talent. And I'm just happy that he has found his place with his brother, working in AEW and, being a higher up in AEW. And I just think that he has so much talent, and he just actually, I think last week, I'm not sure where the wrestling training facility is, but he started his own training facility. It may be in Texas or Georgia. I'm not sure exactly where it is, but I mean, he has a future career doing that. I mean, he's been in the game so long, he's been around so long, and he's been champions, in all the promotions, that he has that ability to, pay it forward pay it forward to future wrestlers in the business.
Yeah, and that's good.
I mean, it is definitely a good thing. This next match had two wrestlers that I really liked and two wrestlers I could live without. Bill Kazmaier was teaming up with Jushin Thunder Liger, the multi-talented masked wrestler from Japan. He was former champion in the WCW and NWA, taking on DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, and Mike Graham. What were your thoughts on this match?
The next three, to me, were actually like all in the same. Like you said, two good ones, two on each of these, that it was really not a lot of surprises to who won. I was never a fan of anyone other. I mean, Jushin Liger is great, but being a wrestler, an Asian style wrestler, he wasn't always seen on TV a lot, at least when I watched. Diamond Dallas Page, man, this guy's been around forever. It was fun to watch and see where he had begun, his wrestling style. Kazmaier was like, I'm trying to think of the LJN guy who was big.
Ted Arcidi?
Ted Arcidi, yeah. Just like Ted Arcidi, big and stiff and, just throwing people around. That's about all he can do. Mike Graham actually impressed me. Little guy, not much of a build, but really very good technical wrestler. But, you knew that this was going to – I figured it was probably going to come down to Kazmaier and Liger, and it really didn't surprise me any at all. It wasn't a super long match either, which was okay with me.
Yeah, we'll kind of move on from that. Our goal in this show is to talk about all the matches, but there's some matches that need more.
We can go fast through these next two, because other than Abdullah the Butcher, at least in the one after this, this was a little slow going in this middle section.
Yeah, you weren't a fan of Lex Luger and Arn Anderson?
Yeah, but not against Terrence Taylor and the Z-Man.
Yeah, I mean,
who's winning this one? Oh man, I think Z-Man's going to take it all. Really? Oh my gosh.
Okay, we'll move on.
Well, we can talk about him as much as we can. All respect to Terry Taylor, except for the Red Rooster years where he kind of got crapped on for that stuff. Yeah. But I mean, no surprise in this stuff. You know who's going to win. So this is what they call what's the old. It's the dumper. When these guys come out, it's time to go take a dump.
I mean, to be honest, I mean, it's kind of like back in the day when they had women's wrestling on. Which, I mean, I love women's wrestling. I mean, I don't mind seeing that, but it is a thing whenever people would go to the concession stand, or like you said, go to the bathroom, take a long commercial break in the bathroom. I mean, it was definitely a long event. But moving on to the next match, we had former world champion Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Todd Champion taking on Cactus Jack and God, this gimmick of Buddy Lee Parker. I'm not sure if you knew much about this gimmick. I mean, he had a tag team partner. They were the State Troopers. I think that was they were like a Georgia State Trooper gimmick. They wore like if you ever with a hat and like a State Trooper hat. It was that's all I got to say. What were your thoughts on this exciting match with Cactus Jack, Buddy Lee Parker, Todd Champion, and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat? Well,
yeah, I guess my excitement would be with Ricky Steamboat and Cactus Jack being in here. But for me, like, this is going to sound weird, but the star of the night would be Abdullah the Butcher, because he had his hand in like everything. And Abdullah, not the greatest wrestler in the world, but having an impact on this one because he beat the bejesus out of Buddy Lee Parker beforehand. And in the next match and in the last thing, he's kind of just doing his own thing. He's kind of just like wandering around, and even announcers are like, what is he doing now? Where's he supposed to be? Is he between the rings? Is he in and out? Is he out now that they threw him out? And then he pulls somebody else out. So it was fun to watch him because he was kind of the mystery man all over the place. But it did give a chance for Steamboat to get the pin on this one and show off some of his skill. Cactus Jack, still early on, at least in his career, will become more known in WWF with Mankind and Mick Foley. But it was fun for the most part. Not super technical, I suppose.
Not really, but you kind of were at the midway point of the card, this fabulous Starrcade 1991. And coming up, we'll kind of tease what we're going to be covering next week. But each and every week, I love to ask or tell the fans, how can people watch your creations online? And I mean, where do they have to go? I mean, because you have some amazing stuff. I mean, you do rings, you do wrestlers, you do everything. How can people watch your creations?
If you go to YouTube and type in Mike Styer, Styer, I have a channel on there, and I'm getting close to about 800 subscribers, so that's fun. I was just doing it, made it up for fun, just to help people out and fellow people like me who do customizations. I think I do okay. I've seen how people have, looked at my stuff and then learned, and then they're doing some really fantastic pieces of art in my mind. So I'm just trying to keep up with the Joneses and put some up that I've done, and just some good tips and talk about LJNs as well.
I mean, is there anything that you're going to be creating and coming up and customizing, in the next little while?
I do have one that I'm going to show here in a little bit because he was actually on the card, and I've been meaning to do him for a while. So this kind of prompted me to do a rush job on him. But also I have somebody suggested I try a different Hulk Hogan, and it is a Pasta Mania Hulk Hogan that I've almost got finished from. He has a store in Minnesota's Mall of America that's called Pastamania, and it's a Hulk Hogan store. And there was a picture of him holding a spoon and a bowl of spaghetti and a pasta hat. And someone said, "Can you make that?" And I said, "Sure, I'll give it a shot." So working on Pastamania Hulk Hogan.
How is that turning out well, hopefully?
Sure, if you don't look too closely at my spaghetti making abilities, because he's holding a big bowl of spaghetti.
Hey, I mean, you can't be good at everything. I mean, making custom figures and who would have thought you would put spaghetti in a custom wrestling figure? But then the next match we had on the card was Sting, who is still wrestling in AEW, or not wrestling, he's still in the business. The Madman from the Sudan, Abdullah the Butcher, taking on Brian Pillman and beautiful Bobby Eaton.
Now, this is a match that you look forward to because on paper, those are four solid workers. Even though, Bobby Eaton with the tag team, Brian Pillman for all his runs everywhere, Abdallah, bleeding like a stuck pig, and then Sting is Sting. So the fun is to see how Sting and Abdallah would react to each other. And again, Abdallah just attacks everybody. He doesn't care. He takes a pencil to Sting his own teammates, and even announcers are like, "Does Abdallah know what he's doing? He's out there attacking everybody." So it was fun. And then Cactus Jack coming out again to fight Abdallah, and it was just all over the place. But I like madness like that at times.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like you said. I mean, had the potential to be a great match, and then, well, I mean, I've noticed that like when they have these tag team tournaments or singles or tag team, they can't make every match, the best. I mean, they just have 10 matches on this card plus the 11th match, the Battle Royal. It's just definitely it's definitely a rush job, I think. But the next match, I'm a fan of a couple of these guys. Big Van Vader,
Stalker, right?
Mr. Hughes, Rick Steiner, and the Night Stalker.
Ooh.
The Night Stalker, a.k.a. the future Atom Bomb. I mean, what were your thoughts on this match? I mean, it had some big guys in it.
But this one was a weird one because, you'd have thought that Vader and Mr. Hughes would have, I guess, dominated a little bit more, but it seemed to me it was a very oddly paced one. It's almost that they had rushed it to get to the end of it. But like you said, there were 10 tag team matches, and none were particularly short. But knowing this one was Rick Steiner and the Night Stalker, you kind of figured that Vader and Mr. Hughes would go on because you need some of the bigger guys to be in that style of match there at the end. So it wasn't bad, but it wasn't super painful either. But at least it was fairly quick, I suppose, in the scheme of things.
Yeah, it's kind of like a lot of things in life. It was good, but it was fairly quick. But yeah. I mean, some of these pay-per-views and shows that we've covered, but that's beside the point. The next match we had on this card was another Scott Steiner with Firebreaker Chip taking on a man that you're good friends with, Arachnaman and Johnny B. Bad. Do you know a guy named Arachnaman?
I do, and he'll make an appearance here in 3, 2, 1. There's the Arachnaman.
That is amazing.
Not a very long-lasting gimmick, because go figure that Marvel Comics didn't like it, and we're going to sue for copyright. It's like, who didn't think about that? Really? Is this going to pass muster as, Arachnaman? And he looked awful. Purple and yellow scheme. It was terrible. Terrible, terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who came up with that gimmick.
But a good wrestler underneath there. But it's like poor Brad couldn't find a decent gimmick that didn't stick, because he was also the Candyman, or one of the versions of the Candyman. And Firebreaker Chip, what on God's green earth? I honestly didn't know who he was. I at least knew who Arachnaman was, which is funny, but it's like Firebreaker Chip?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's some gimmicks that you should know about. I mean, if you know about them, then you just have way too much time. But I'm glad.
So this wasn't awful. Johnny B. Bad is fun to watch. Scott Steiner's fun to watch. It's funny when you look back at some of these earlier pay-per-views and shows that we've watched, how the finishers aren't the tremendous finishers that we see today. Like this one ended with Steiner giving Arachnaman a belly-to-belly suplex, and that got the win. It's like, a belly-belly suplex is now kind of like a throwaway move, but that was enough to get them a win. But it was fun, other than who is this Firebreaker Chip guy? I don't know. You should make him you should make a figure of Firebreaker Chip. I mean,
no, because you know why? No one would ever else would do that. But I'm sure we'd get a lot of top dollar on the internet. But
maybe a Johnny B. Bad.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Johnny B. Bad. He definitely grew on me. I mean, when he first came out, I was like Little Richard kind of gimmick, and he kind of dropped that as much, which I'm glad he did, because it just didn't work well. But the next match we had on the card, Ron Simmons, former WCW champion, of course, Hall of Famer. He played for FSU with another gimmick that they just changed his name, Thomas Rich instead of Tommy Rich, taking on Steve Armstrong and PN News.
Okay, on paper, this one's the throwaway, other than just to watch Ron Simmons, because you knew what he would be and what he actually was back then. I remember back in like the mid 80s, they were hyping Tommy Wildfire Rich to be something big and great, and didn't go very long. And Steve Armstrong, one of the Armstrong brothers, so he knew what he was doing in the ring. But again, how much charisma is he bringing to the table? And then PN News. Okay. So this one was basically, for me, it was just a show for Simmons, and seeing him get that win after the Spine Buster. But this was a sloppy match. I had to watch that Spine Buster a couple of times, and Armstrong took it for the loss, but just didn't take it well. And to me, it's like his feet were in the wrong place, and it was very sloppy match. But the right people got the win.
Yeah, I mean. Not a fan. I mean, P. News, I mean, he could rap, I guess. That was his gimmick. But I remember there was a Starrcade. I think it was a Starrcade. They had a Skywalker Scaffold match, which had P. News involved in it. And if anybody can remember what P. News looked like, and also what the Skywalker Scaffold match and the configuration of the scaffold looked like, big guys should not be up on the scaffold. Mm-mm. I'm just saying. I mean, he looked uncomfortable in the match, but I mean... And Thomas Tommy Rich, I was never a big fan of his. Like you said, they back in the NWA when he was the world champion for like a minute. I swear I think he won it because they were in the state of Georgia, but that's beside the point. I did think he was going to be something big, but like you said, he didn't really turn out to be as big a wrestler as I think they had hoped.
Well, I think part of the problem is back then, and even still today, is when you're looking at these guys, you have to believe they could be a champion. And when you look at Tommy Rich, you're going, no, I don't think so. He had pretty much a dad bod. And who's he going to beat? I mean, you put him against like Road Warrior Hawk or Animal and Sting, unless he's super, super technically sound or was a heel and pulled a lot of tricks out of his bag, who's he honestly going to be? You're not going to fool the fans by any means. But like you said, that sometimes promotions use their champions to pull in certain areas. When, current WWE, when the modern day Maharaja, I can remember that, but I can't remember his name.
When they went to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, well, the champion who was I'm drawing a blank. He was part of 3-man band. But anyways, they had him for a champion for a while because you're trying to pull in a certain area of the world to watch, or you're doing a startup over there for some reason. So, promotions do that from time to time, but there's got to be some believability to it.
His name was Jinder Mahal.
That's it, Jinder. Oh, how could I forget Jinder Mahal?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that they should forget, and he's one of them. But a 3-man band, I mean, God, that's most of the wrestlers. Kind of Drew McIntyre. I mean, I think he's pretty over right now. Even though I think he's currently out because he has COVID. But that's that's a thing. And
I'd love to see them come. All three of you've got 2 champs, world champions, and then the third one was a tag team champion. He's got all my kids. That would be fun to bring that back for, even if it's a show, and then Drew McIntyre destroys them both.
Yeah, that would be amazing. They should do that back whenever, because WrestleMania is going, I think, to Texas next year, and then California. We were looking for it in Atlanta because they had it one time in Atlanta. And, well, it's not going to be coming back anytime soon. But the main event was at the elimination, and it was won by Sting. What are your thoughts on the ending of this amazing event?
It was what it was. At times, you feel like the Royal Rumble, and they started with everybody. And so the premise, for those who don't know, is you have 2 rings side by side. Everybody starts in the first ring, and then everybody but the last guy gets tossed over. And then as soon as they get tossed over, they go into the other ring. So, that first person gets tossed out. They move to the other ring. They're waiting for the next person to come in. And so whoever's the last person standing in the first ring stays put. That was Lex Luger. The second guy was Sting, and then you put them together in the same ring, and then they fight it out. So I thought it was a great premise. The problem is it's very hard to watch. 1 Battle Royal, 1 Royal Rumble, and 1 ring is tough to watch. 2, it's almost impossible because you just can't visually take it all in. You got to count on the announcers. If you're looking for a specific guy or a favorite, they may get tossed out in a second, and then they're out of there. But it was fun, especially when you got towards the end of it. Then you got your bigger names out there after all the kind of riffraff gets tossed away to the side, as you knew it was going to happen anyways. But at the same time, I bet this made for a long night for these guys because and you always saw that with Sting with the face paint, and by the end he just looked like plain old Steve.
Yeah,
his face paint would come off because he's working hard. He's in there for a long time, and Lex Luger didn't look bad through all of this. He gets a lot of knocks for not being the most technically sound or super safe wrestler, but I thought he held his own. He did a good job as being a heel during all of this. So it was fun. I like the premise. It was something different. I don't know how long this actually worked. Do you know how many more times they did this?
A couple more times, I think. I'm sure we'll probably have covered it in the future. But okay. I am just not a fan of this whole Starrcade. I mean, nowadays they just have a separate pay-per-view for, tournaments like that, or they did. I'm just, I'm not a big fan. But what I am a big fan of is our show next week, which will be Clash of the Champions 4 Seasons Beatings. It took place in Tyler's home state of Tennessee, Chattanooga, Tennessee. It actually had some okay matches. Had the Fantastics, Eddie Gilbert, Ron Simmons, Steve Williams, your favorite wrestler, the Italian Stallion, Ivan Koloff taking on Paul Jones, Ric Flair, Barry Windham, the Midnight Express. I mean, it was. I'm not sure if you were, watching wrestling much back in 1988.
Oh yeah, yep. I was probably, let me think, a 6th or 7th grade. So yeah, I was still into it. So I definitely knew the NWA stuff. I definitely knew the WWF stuff at the time.
I mean, it's definitely a good show. I mean, folks, if you want to follow the podcast, just go on Twitter at the RW Rewind. Just wanted to thank everyone for watching us. Come to find out, we have a viewer currently right now on Twitch. Who knew that was a thing, or that anybody would be able to find our Twitch page? But they did. Thanks to everybody for listening and for watching. And next week we're going to be covering Clash of the Champions 4. So for the great Tyler Peters, who decided to freeze frame, and the great Mike Styer, I am David Fine. We will talk to you next week, as of course we will talk to you in the past.
38 pounds in the black corner. From St. Louis, Missouri.
Andre the Giant.
Gonna get his licks in on the loser.
Number 1, the greatest WWE champion of all time, and in many ways, the man who made the title what it is today, Bruno Sammartino.
His opponent weighing 236 pounds in the white corner. From Van Nuys, California.